I'm so glad you're here. This is a replay of a live training I did inside the OTs for Pelvic Health Facebook group with Lindsey Vestal, and I wanted to make sure that everyone gets access to it. Pelvic health is such an incredibly fulfilling specialty, and it's growing so much. I've been training OT since 2018, and my goal is to have over 10,000 OTs trained by the year 2030. I'm so glad you're here learning about this specialty. I hope that you can join us in the OTs for Pelvic Health Facebook group with me, Lindsey Vestal. I will link to the group below in the show notes and description. Thank you so much.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to OT Empower Hour. I am always thrilled to be here today. I'm especially thrilled. I'm so excited to introduce you to Erica Reed. Before I do that, and before we start talking about the importance of authenticity in our own healing process in order to attract and serve others, which, by the way, is that not the most incredible topic? I am so excited to lean into this with Erica today. Before we go down that beautiful conversation, before I share with you a little bit about Erica, I want to just right now ask for my icebreaker question. It lets Erica and I know that you're here, and it just kind of gets us right into it. And remember, Facebook's really funny. It doesn't let us know you're here unless we see a comment, and that just helps energize myself and Erica to be a part of this beautiful community that we have grown. So Erica, I'm going to start with asking you the icebreaker question, and I'll type your response in the comments. Are you a morning person or an evening person?
Oh, that's such an easy question. I was so worried what you were going to ask today. I was like, oh, I'm going to have to think about this. I am definitely an evening person.
I actually already typed that. I was like, I'm going to do a predicting here, and then I'll just quickly erase it if I was wrong. I totally thought you were a nighttime person.
Yeah. I'm trying to be a morning person, but instead what's happening is I'm finding I'm like neither, but I've always been an evening person. Yeah.
Awesome. So I'm a morning person, and it's been great moving back to the United States, because when I was in Paris, I was 6 hours ahead of New York, 9 hours ahead of California, which meant like all of these OT power hours, all of my meetings were happening at night. And I'm I don't think it's clear. I'm not as energized. So it's now, 10 o'clock here in Arizona, and I'm pretty happy to be in my element.
When I first moved to Hawaii from New York, I mean, it was like a 6-hour difference. So everyone would be up surfing at 6 a.m. in Hawaii. And I would be up because for me, I felt like it was noon and it's about time I should get up. I was like, this is great. I hope this lasts forever, but it lasted about 2 weeks.
That's fantastic. Weslina is joining us. Hey, Weslina, she's a morning person. Keep them coming in. It really energizes us. And if you're on replay, let us know as well. Are you a morning person or an evening person? So today's topic is all about authenticity, and really leaning into that authenticity to not only attract our ideal client, but to actually serve them. And I was just speaking with Erica before we went live, just how incredibly topical this conversation is. I just had a podcast episode released about like finding meaning in finding meaning in biomechanical skills or not. And a lot of my emails, if you receive my emails lately, have really been around this topic of not attracting everyone, but attracting the right person. And when I had my private practice in New York City, it was all around how could I hone in that message to attract my ideal client? One of the ways that I had a light bulb moment was actually when I had a Broadway performer come in and say, you've got a lot of competition here in New York City. And I was like, yeah, I know. And she's like, I want to tell you like why I'm here. I'm like, please. And she's like, you give workshops like every weekend. And I really wanted to be taught how to feel better in my body and not necessarily just done to. And that was a light bulb moment for me, because I was like, wow, not only is my getting more clients in from offering these workshops, but I'm actually getting in the client that I want to serve. Education was so important to me. And so just my super quick example of how through my own methods and things that felt genuine to me, I was actually putting information out there into the world around the type of practitioner I was and attracting that person in. And so 2023 for me, Erica, is going to be all about just really leaning into and sharing how that authenticity is one of the best things we can do for us for preventing burnout, for feeling aligned with our values, and for actually getting the client into our door that we want to ultimately serve. So I am so excited to be talking about this with you today. Before we get into it, I want to just share a very quick background around you for those that may be less familiar with you. So you have a private practice in LA where you specialize in myofascial release and visceral manipulation, as well as pelvic health. You are also in the middle of completing training through Vita Sex, that's VITA, which is a love and relationship coaching school. And you are going to be combining practices, all of these practices and all of this background to work specifically with the survivors of sexual trauma. You have a nonprofit called New Dawn, where you provide OT services and other holistic interventions for survivors of sex trafficking. Welcome to OT Empower Hour, Erica.
Thank you. Sorry, I keep moving around. I was chasing the sun this morning. It's like trying to get to me here. I'm like trying to not have a glare across my face.
If that's not a good omen, I don't know what is.
I take the sun any day. It's like cold in LA, and that's, not very usual. Yeah, I'm so happy to be here. It's funny because several times we've connected, and I was always like, I'd love to be on there, but what am I going to talk about? Everyone's covered the topics and they've covered it much better than I can. And, I won't say I'm always, because it's something I'm working on, but, comparing myself, or that imposter syndrome, and just feeling like, wow, I've always done everything on my own, which I don't advise, by the way. So it's so nice to have someone like you who has such a huge platform so people can come to, because I had nothing and I just kind of somehow struggled my way through. And it's always made me feel like I'm different, or I don't fit in, or maybe I'm not doing things right. Maybe I'm not following how we're supposed to be in OT, right? All these things that just kind of try to enter in my head all the time. And so when I was thinking about it, I was like, what do I have to offer? And then I was like, well, that's it right there. The fact that I've had to, I'm just going to slide this over here, beat to my own drum in a sense, and how that's worked out for me, which I'd say it's worked out pretty good, because there is that attraction of likeness, right? And I also believe even beyond that, there's already a preset of who we're here to serve, possibly. And so I feel like for me, I think that's something that was already kind of in the plan for me, right? And so it's not going to come to fruition, or it's not going to blossom perhaps until I'm ready to really be my authentic self. And so I just really thought, I think it's super important to just really bring us back to that, the simple thing of to know thyself first, then we can help others. There's a lot of talk about you have to love yourself first before you can love others. Well, I feel like you have to know yourself first before you can really know others, and then be that help for them. Because I think authenticity is really having an awareness of who you are, but then being true to it, but being okay with it as well. And I was filling you in on a really good example of that actually happened recently, and it kind of threw me off. And I was like, okay, I need to step back and get back to what am I really here to do, or what do I really love to do? And it'll make me
sharing that story with us.
Yeah, absolutely. So I had a Olympian, a gold medalist, coming to see me, and she was part of a team. And so the doctor was like, well, you'll be seeing several of them for pelvic floor. And of course I was super excited, and she came in, and I was like, okay, this is a tough one, not in her diagnosis, but just very tough exterior, very not connected. And I'm like, okay, I can understand that. I can work with that. I saw her twice. And then I didn't see her again. And I had reached out to the doctor, and she said, yeah, she ended up going to one of the colleges, or one of the university schools, the clinics, sorry. And she said, yeah, she just said she was a little freaked out that you have a room in a house. And I was like, well, actually it's a room outside a house because there's a house with acupuncturists and psychologists. And then I have this side cottage. It's pretty big. So I was like, it's actually outside a house, but she's like, yeah, she was looking more for a clinical environment. And it really kind of bummed me out because, wow, this was a perfect opportunity to work with somebody, you know, and that ego started kicking in. But also I wanted to prove to myself, oh, I could do this. I can, you know, I can attract big names, that whole thing. And so it really just set me back a step, like, oh, wow, am I really sucking here at what I'm doing? You know, I can't offer what somebody like this person would want. And I mentioned it, and I brought it up to my boyfriend, of course, and he was like, Erica, like, do you think you can make everybody happy? Think about how many people walk into your space, the way it's set up, and how they have complimented you because it made them feel so safe, men and women. The first joke is, oh, you must like purple, because it's just somehow ended up with purple all over, but it's a royal color and it's a healing color. And I figured it, you know, everybody could like purple, but it's always been complimented as a safe space. And I'm like, I just have to remember that's the important stuff, is who's attracted to here, who usually comes here, and just has that safety. Because for me, that's the first thing that I want people to feel, is safe to let go, safe to be themselves, all of that good stuff. So I had to kind of pull myself back and just remind myself, what direction are you going? Who do you want to serve? Who are you serving? Think about all the good feedback you've heard and move on. It's okay. You can't please everyone. John Barnes obviously is a mentor of sorts, since I've studied a lot of his work. And he always says, you can only take people as far as you're willing to go yourself. And I think that ties into this as well, because that's been my journey all along. Is I've always had trouble treating myself. And I used to always joke, oh, I'm the shoemaker's daughter, ha, ha, ha. And I finally, about 6 months ago, I looked at myself in the mirror and I was like, that's not funny anymore. Because why wouldn't I take care of myself as much as I want to take care of someone else? And I think that it ties heavily into being authentic, is how we look at ourselves again and how we treat ourselves, so that we can treat others. And we can, you know, I can't expect somebody to go out and do their home exercise program if I can't even do it myself, right? Because that energy is there. They're going to know it. They're going to feel it. I'm going to attract people who are interested in doing it. And I can't, in my truth, tell somebody, yes, this is how you do it. This is how you get better. It's not me, it's you. You're the healer. I'm facilitating, when I'm telling them to go home and do it. And then I'm going home and finding a million other things to do than to sit and center and work on myself. So that's been a big, tough one for me. But that message is always in the back of my head. If I really want to serve others, serve myself first and take care of myself first. Lynn Schultz, you're familiar with her, of course. Wasn't she on? Yeah, she was on your, yes, she was on. She's
OTs and Pelvic Health Summit. Yeah.
And, you know, I love following her. And I wanted to, she used the words, she beats her own drum too. And she was talking about how she's difficult and she feels she's different, but she's used that as her superpower. Yes. And I love that she said that, because I was helping my mom move many years ago, and I was doing something with putting away her books or something, and I pick up this book and it says How to Deal with Difficult Daughters. I'm her only daughter, granted. So I was like, wait, who's difficult here? But I feel like that has always kind of followed me. And I used to tell people I'm not, you know, complicated, I'm complex, you know, and I just always felt kind of off with that. And so I love when she brought it up. She specifically said, I'm difficult, but I'm going to make that my superpower. I'm going to use it in my marketing, and I'm going to use it in connecting with my clients and who I'm meant to serve. I think that's super powerful, to really just find who we are and then go with it. Be that, because there's other people who are looking for someone who gets it and who feels that way. And then we can help them and guide them. And I was telling you, I'm sure this isn't in the official definition of occupational therapy, but I think it should be. One of our roles can be, and I feel like it should be intertwined in everything, is helping people find that authenticity of who they really are, and then how they can express that.
Yeah. I love so many things about that story, Erica. And what I'm really hearing you say is, number one, you know, it's a journey that we all go through in so many aspects of our life, of kind of like finding how comfortable and how ready are we to step into that voice. And so what I'm hearing from you is really being able to find your own, do your own work on yourself has been a pivotal part of your journey. And so many of us who are in this role of being an OT are empaths by nature. And so very often we can put other people's needs before our own. So I really love hearing that from you, this, you know, this prioritization of self and nurturing. And that just by the very act of doing that, we're actually helping to serve the people that we want to serve. And one of the parallel thoughts that I have about that is, as a lot of times when I was working with pre and postnatal people in my private practice, it was like very often it can be tricky to help encourage the new parent to, you know, take care of themselves, you know, do their exercises, or even just go out for a walk where they didn't, you know, have to see another person. But when we put it into the context of, okay, well, guess what? This is serving as a role model and as an opportunity to show your future kid, you know, especially as they get older, how you're caring for yourself and how that's an important part of it. That modeling that we can do for our own children can often be the thing that can get that parent to go, you know, you're right. This is something I need to step more into. And so it reminds me a little bit of that, of sometimes tapping into a sense of selflessness can help us become a little bit more selfish in that way that not only nurtures us, but it helps us give out that energy to nurture others.
Absolutely.
So thank you for sharing that. You know, if you're comfortable, I'd love to hear a little bit more about like that journey of, you know, when that Olympiad came in and, you know, you felt that sense of that we would all feel. And I have felt many times of, you know, rejection and, you know, like, wow, like this wasn't the right fit for this person. Can you tell us a little bit about like what the steps you went through to kind of get past that and to kind of put that where it belonged, which was like, this wasn't the person that was the right match for my space, for who I need to serve?
Well, I think one of the things that I was able to do is just reflect on my journey. And I'll tell a little bit about my journey, and so then I can answer that a bit better. I was married at like 2 weeks before my 19th birthday, which is a whole nother story, but I had painful sex, and I saw like 4 OBGYNs, and they all told me that my painful sex was because I'm a woman and I just need to find a position that doesn't hurt. And so this was my introduction. And my introduction, even before that, was I was told men are bad and sex is bad. And so therefore, it pretty much was that way. The man was bad, the sex was bad. But here I was landed in this position. And then I went through this journey to get out of the idea that I'm bad, I'm supposed to be in pain, there's something wrong with me, I'm broken, that whole series. And, you know, I didn't start out so well getting through that. I kind of went a route that could have gone south pretty quick, but I eventually pulled myself out of that. And I was treated in Sedona by John Barnes. And as soon as he went internally on me and he went down, hit my coccyx, the pain went soaring up into my ruptured appendix scar. And that's when I realized this is from scar tissue. This is something that can be treated. So I went through this journey, and that's what opened me up to the whole pelvic floor world. I'm like, I have to share this. Like, I didn't even know that this was out there. Never thought this is what I'd be doing, but here I am because this is part of my journey. I cannot hold this information back. I've also in 2020, before the world turned upside down, I actually had an explant. I had had breast implants for 13 years. And I would have people say to me, aren't you like a fascia person? Like, doesn't that affect it? And I'm like, yeah, what am I? And this is no judgment any way anyone goes, because I don't have that kind of judgment. I just got an intuitive hit. It's time to get these out. And so I went through that process and really had to dive in to see many things around that, like why I got them in the first place, what it's going to be like to take them out. Am I going to feel like me still? Or am I going to feel like me before? Where is that going to land me? And so both these things, of course, have brought me on this journey where now I'm working with people with pelvic floor issues and people going through body image and explants. And it's a beautiful place for me to be. I love working with this community, and it feels like it just feels, this might sound corny, but it feels like home. I love going to work and working with people who want to explore this and who want to understand their body more and who have dealt with these type of issues. So to answer your question, I had to just sit myself down and say, okay, what am I bothered about here? Am I bothered really because I didn't help this person? They're going to get help. I can't help everyone. Maybe they're going to get more help somewhere else. So I can't let ego get in the way. And I just thought, do you love what you do? Do you serve? Who do you want to serve? And I'm not even sure that serve is the right word, but you know what I mean. You know, I'm side by side on this, helping people, facilitate them on their journey, and I love doing it. So why would one person who would be better off in a different place with someone else, why am I letting that bother me? And I just had to recognize that it was just ego, and that's okay. The ego is strong. But I just had to let that go and just realize, as long as I'm being true and I love going to work and I'm doing the best I can, I'm going to have to just leave it at that. And it's not that simple, but you know, that's where you get. Yeah.
So, I just love that. And you're right. It's not that simple, but being reminded of some of the thoughts that when we're in the depth of the struggle, and we're not able to see ourselves out of it because the emotions are so strong, the self-talk is so strong, hearing some of those key phrases that you just said, and I'm going to have to go back in and listen to it again because it was phenomenal, is that though reminding ourselves of those very simple things can be so helpful, because I think we sometimes get caught up in the fact that we are supposed to be able to help and serve and empower everyone, when truly, you know, it really is a matter of finding the people that you are right for. And so, yeah, Lynn Schulte's message, your message here is really reiterating that. So thank you for telling us some of the messages and some of the self-talk that you had that got you to that place. And I think the more examples we can share on this community of being able to do that, the better we're all going to feel about when we find ourselves, and we all find ourselves in this exact place. It could be in a family situation, a professional situation. It doesn't matter. We're human beings at the end of the day, Erica. And so being able to hear some of that self-talk and that journey is an absolute honor. Carolyn.
I just was going to say really quick, and I don't want anyone to think, well, just because I haven't experienced something, then that means I can't do it. Because I'll have people say to me all the time, I work with pregnant women all the time, do you have any children? It's like, no, just the furry kind, you know, they didn't come out of here. So, but it used to make me think, oh my gosh, are they going to think, well, then why is she working on me? I don't think that anymore, because I'm still going through a lot of the things that they're going through now. I'm not having a baby come out. That's what they're going to do in the hospital, but I am able to get them connected with, get them aware of all the things that I need to do anyways for myself. And so, you know, if you work with somebody who's at an explant and you've never, you know, any of those things, that you don't have to, it's just being that true to yourself. That's the most important. And because you can help them to do the same for themselves for that.
So I get this question a lot in my OT Pioneer cohort. So I'm actually in the middle of an OT Pioneer cohort right now. And one of this exact question came up that you exactly just said, Erica. I have not had a baby. Can I still help pregnant people? And, I think this is something we ask ourselves a lot. And my answer to them was very much in line with yours, which is, have you helped a person who's had a stroke before? Yes. Have you experienced a stroke? No. Okay. What about people who work in burn units? Have you had a burn before? No. So I'm not too sure, why we just have to have that genuine desire to care and connect and empower. We don't necessarily have to have had that same journey to be able to help someone.
Yeah, I think the empower is the big word, because I was sitting here thinking the biggest thing is helping people to embody, to really get into their body and to really understand and to feel and be aware. And then we have the tools to help them how to change things that might need to be changed and how to do things, but it's getting into that body. And so when we really work on that ourselves, then we can help other people to just get right in there. And I don't know if that makes any sense, but the more we're embodied, the more we're empowered, I think is what I'm trying to say.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. So Carolyn is joining us, and she says she really appreciates your transparency and vulnerability in your discussion of your journey. And she said that she had a PT coworker say the same thing yesterday to me, that not having children, about not having children, and reassured her how great pelvic health therapy is, regardless of whether or not we've had that same experience that we're treating. So that's fantastic. So if anyone has any questions for Erica, throw them in the comments. We're going to be wrapping up here in just a few moments, but Erica is a member of our group. So if you type in a question on replay or type in a question a little bit later after we hang up, feel free to keep doing so. I'm sure she'll see your question come in at some point. I love this. And I have a question myself as we're waiting to see if anyone joining us has one, Erica, and that is, like, do you have any thoughts or suggestions on, like, maybe some tangible ways that we can become and more step into our own authenticity?
Absolutely. We kind of discussed, if you to really work on making sure that you treat your body well, which could be anything from taking your Epsom salt lavender baths, taking a walk, spending you time, but also getting treatment. For me, it's, I need to get treatment for myself so that I can keep my body fluid and moving and feeling healthy, but then I also am able to hold that space for others. So if you do craniosacral, myofascial, anything that you do, you doing it yourself and taking care of your body, I think, is of the utmost importance. The other thing I wanted to kind of share some stuff I learned from my Vita Sex, Love, and Relationship Coaching School was understanding your brand. So getting a clear idea of what your brand is. And this obviously is definitely applies to someone with their own practice, but also within hospital setting and everything too. You can have your own unique style. And I think that's amazing, because you're going to stand out and people are going to want to work with you just because they see that, ooh, I like this about that person. They're not going to see 5 different therapists and think, well, this one I know does it this way, and this one that, they don't know about the tools. So it's how they relate to somebody. So be you, so that people are going to just really feel comfortable working with you. But understanding your niche is really about finding, like, who your niche is, who you really want to serve and work with. But what she suggests is adding 2 or 3 flavors. So in other words, what your personality is, what you bring to your skill set that maybe others have a different flavor to. Hers is like being alive, being playful. I think mine, I called it being humble, because I feel very humble when I'm around people. I like to bring in a little humor if I can. And then handsy, because I'm always using my hands on people wherever, just to bring them into their body or to work with them. I'm sure I could come up with some better ones than that, but I kind of like acronyms and keeping the same letter and everything. But, playful, alive, just all these different approaches you might have to how you present things. And this is how you are in your life as well. And the way to really think about these two is think, how do you want your client to feel when they walk out of the room?
Mm.
You want them to feel alive. Do you want them to feel playful? Do you want them to feel centered? Do you want them to feel calm, connected? These are all things that I kind of look for. I want you to feel that way when you walk out the room, right? So thinking of what your niche is, and then thinking of what your flavors are. And you can ask your partner, you can ask your friends, hey, what do you think of when you think of me? And so bringing that into, okay, this is my brand. This is where I'm solid. This is how I want to be. And that may change later, but really just playing with that and keeping that in the forefront. And then the third thing would be working with your deva. And this is the soul or the energy of your work. So this is diving a little in deeper, and this might be maybe a little too woo-woo for some people, and that's okay, but it's really what is the kind of the energy or the soul of my work. And there's actually a meditation that you can do for that. I won't go into the whole thing, but basically just if you take some time just to drop in, if you meditate at all, and then spending some time thinking, what are the colors? What are the shapes that I want for my office? What are the qualities of my brand? Who am I here to serve? And what message do I want to put out there? That's all the soul of your business, of who you are, how you want to present, how you want to express, and how you want people to feel. So taking some time just to, drop in and then kind of ask universe, yourself, whatever you connect with, and what is my deva? What is the energy that I want to have around this? And see if any of those messages get answered for you. And then you can, it's one way to set up your practice, but also maybe to kind of change or carry with you so that you're having this, you're presenting with all these things about you so that people are really attracted to that.
I love that. I love that. And I think that when we ask ourselves some of those questions, we may not always know and hear the answer right away. And I think that's kind of sometimes the scary process of it is going, well, what if I don't get an answer? What if I'm not sure? And that has stopped me in the past from asking myself these questions, because I was like, well, does that mean I'm not connected? Does that mean the universe isn't with, like, what is the implication there? But I have found that the more I stop to ask, the more I hear, and the more connected I am. And not being afraid that sometimes there may not be an answer is part of that. And having that not stop me from being able to try to listen to whatever, that first intuition, that first moment, that first answer, perhaps the visual of purple coming up, whatever it may be, so thank you for sharing that. I love that.
I'm so glad you said that, though, because I've always been like that. I've been very resistant to any meditation or asking questions because I'm like, I don't hear anything. I'm so, I get so annoyed. But the more I've been doing it, the more I'm just like, okay, I'm just going to put that out. I never get answers right then, but it comes up later on. And for me, that's how it works. And I've learned to be okay with that. Just putting it out there or just thinking about things often, then eventually something will show me, oh yeah, that would be a great idea. It's just like that manifestation, right? You keep thinking about something, you bring it in, eventually you get a little hint over here or a big hint right here, it's super important to know that everybody can't just sit there and then just come up with a whole thing, and that's okay. But start thinking about these things, and that's the way that kind of just gets the ball rolling.
And what I find is if we don't ask the question, we're definitely not going to get the answer. Right. And it's like I just recorded a podcast this morning about this idea of asking a client a question if there's anything that comes up for them beyond their physical symptoms. So being able to say, does this symptom remind you of something? Was there a story there around the fact that your left shoulder always hurts? And what I was saying in the episode was like, well, they're not going to give pause, and the answer may not come up if the question isn't asked. So it's okay if there's not an answer, but we're certainly not going to get one if we don't give pause to the idea of it. So the more I leaned into that, I became less afraid of not getting an answer and recognizing, like you said, it may come later or it may not come at all, and that's okay. But if I'm not giving pause, it's certainly not opening the space for that to happen.
Giving pause. Yeah.
Fantastic. Weslina is saying, love this. Thank you so much, Erica, for bringing your wisdom here. And I mirror that as well. This has been such a pleasure. I'm so ecstatic that you joined us today. I think the timing couldn't have been any better, at least from the things that I've been talking a lot about with the community. And then I think is just sort of the vibe in the air as we're getting closer to wrapping up 2022 and thinking about what's ahead for all of us. And so thank you so much for all of this today. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
We'll see you all next week, same time, same place for the next OT Empower Hour. If you have any ideas for future topics, I love hearing from you. So drop me an email or DM me. Have a beautiful day, everyone.